people first come across the alkaline food charts, one of the biggest questions they have is this: how do you actually tell if a food is acid or alkaline? Is it random? Why do the different charts contradict each other? Why does one chart say a certain food is alkaline and another one says it's acid? So let's simplify this properly for you today. Now, there's broadly two main methodologies used to classify a food as acid or alkaline. Understanding the differences between them, this is going to clear up pretty much all of the confusion for you. So you leave this video today knowing exactly how to assess these different foods as to whether they're acid or alkaline. Now, this first method is called PRAL, P-R-A-L, and it stands for Potential Renal Acid Load. This is the method used by most of the alkaline food charts you will see online, and it works by burning the food down to an ash, and then they measure the pH of that ash residue. Now, it sounds like quite a scientific process, and in certain research settings, this is the perfect methodology. It's really, really useful, but we have a problem here. When you burn the food down to this ash, you destroy some of the most important elements that are going to determine how that food behaves inside your body and the alkaline or acid effect it's going to have on you once it's been consumed. Most importantly, this method burns out all of the sugar and all of the yeasts, and this matters enormously because the key question we need to be asking is not, is the food acid or alkaline? The key question we need to be asking is the food acid forming or alkaline forming once it's been metabolized and consumed and worked out by the body. Now, that word forming is really important. Acid forming and alkaline forming. It's a completely different question. It's a really key distinction. What effect is it having on the body once consumed? So a really great example of this is fruit. Most high sugar fruits, when they're burned in the lab for the PRAL testing, the sugar is destroyed. So what remains can test alkaline. And this is why you see a lot of fruits like oranges and pineapples, bananas showing as alkaline on some of the charts. But the fructose has a really real metabolic effect. The fructose immediately creates a ton of uric acid in the body once it's metabolized by the liver. So it upsets your insulin balance, liver stress, inflammation, and that overall acid load in the body. PRAL, the PRAL method, gets about 70% right, but it can be misleading in certain areas. And now we move beyond PRAL. There's another concept that's really important to understand called NEAP, N-E-A-P, which stands for Net Endogenous Acid Production. Forget the scientific terms for a moment. This is what it actually means. Your body is going to produce acids internally every single day on autopilot, all day, every day, from your normal metabolism, your normal bodily functions. Protein metabolism produces acids. Sugar metabolism produces acids. This is happening all of the time in your body. Even your stress chemistry produces acids. When cortisol goes up, your pH goes down. So researchers began to ask how much total acid is the body producing normally, and then through diet and through lifestyle combined. And this total internal acid load is what NEAP estimates. So again, it's not about the pH of the food itself. In this instance, it's about the metabolic effects, what's left behind after digestion. And this is where minerals matter, because alkaline minerals, especially potassium, magnesium, sodium, calcium that are coming from vegetables and plants, these of course neutralize that acid load. So when your diet is low in mineral rich plants and high in refined foods and excess proteins, your NEAP will increase. And when that increases consistently over time, your body has to work twice as hard to maintain your blood pH and keep it at that beautiful level where you're working optimally. And to do this, it works your lungs, it works your kidneys, and it uses all of those mineral reserves. Your body is going to regulate your pH no matter what you do. And the issue isn't here the survival. The issue here is the workload it takes to keep regulating your pH. And this is why long-term high dietary acid load is associated in the research with so many degenerative conditions and diseases and things like kidney strain, low-grade inflammation, weight gain, and all of those other things. So when we're talking about alkaline forming foods, We're talking about the foods that reduce that net acid production and reduce that metabolic burden on the body. So bringing that into something practical now, once you actually understand those principles behind PRAL and behind NEAP, you don't need to memorize those charts. You don't need to memorize where every single food fits on there. You can walk into a supermarket, open your fridge, sit in a restaurant or a cafe and make really accurate decisions really, really quickly. So with all of that science understood, here is the simple way, the simple alkaline food test. So broadly speaking, there are two types of foods in the modern world. There's fresh foods, and then there's processed foods, packaged foods, refined foods. And this alone is going to give you a really powerful starting point, okay? So let's break down now what makes a food alkaline forming versus what makes a food acid forming. Firstly, is it fresh? Fresh foods have got all of their nutrients still intact. They've not been tampered with, they've not been processed, they've not been changed in a way that's going to make that nutrient density wither away. They've not had their mineral balance shifted. Fresh foods, especially when it comes to things like fats and oils as well. Oils exposed to heat and light and air, we know they become unstable, they become inflammatory, they can become toxic to the body. Fresh matters. So when you know your food is fresh, you know it hasn't been tampered with, you know the nutrient content is going to remain intact and it's more likely to be on the alkaline side. Secondly, what is the mineral content? Alkaline forming foods are predominantly alkaline forming because of their mineral content. So magnesium, calcium, potassium, sodium bicarbonate, iron, manganese, all our lovely veggies, all our leafy greens, those salads, those wonderful vegetables are loaded with these minerals. And ultimately that leads us to the next principle, which is the third one. Is it a vegetable? So almost all vegetables, in fact, every vegetable is either mildly or strongly alkaline forming. If it's grown from the ground, if it looks like a plant, you're in pretty safe territory. Fourth, is it with a high water content? High water content foods are generally more alkaline forming and less acid forming. They're less metabolically burdensome. And then fifth, is it green? Green foods containing chlorophyll, which is strongly supportive of alkalinity and detoxification pathways, generally are going to be the alkaline forming foods. Now, you don't have to tick all of those boxes, but one or two of those, you will know it's an alkaline food if it's moving in those directions. And what makes a food acid forming? Real simple. The biggest driver is sugar. And sugar in any form, glucose, fructose, dextrose, these are all acid forming metabolically. That doesn't mean you need to panic about fruit. It means moderation and awareness. Secondly, does it contain yeast? Yeast-based foods are always acid forming. Third, is it fermented? Fermented foods are acid in their composition. This doesn't mean you can never use them as part of a gut healing protocol, but fermented foods, the fermentation process makes the food acid forming. Fourth, does it contain dairy? We know dairy is strongly acid forming, strongly mucus forming. And finally, kind of the big catch-all, is it refined? The more refined and prepared a food is, the more acid forming it's going to be, the more acid forming ingredients are going to be in there. The most important part of all of this is none of this is about perfection. It's about ratio. You are not trying to eliminate every single acid forming food forever. You're just shifting your balance to more mineral rich, more plant-based, more fresh, and less refined, less sugar, less burden on your body. When you understand these core principles, you will have no stress around your food choices. You won't need to memorize a list. You won't need to memorize, like I said, where every single food fits. You can think clearly and keep it really simple. And that's the goal. That alkaline life isn't about perfection. It's not about overwhelm. It's not about obsession and trying to understand every little thing. It's simply about letting your body do the work, knowing how your body works and making the decisions that are going to reduce the workload and nourish it to support that balance. So if you remember just one thing from this video, let it be this: fresh is best. Fresh, mineral-rich, plant-based foods which reduce that net acid load, and processed, sugary, refined foods are going to increase that metabolic burden. So shift the ratio, Take your time, let your body do the rest. Your body knows what to do. Give your body the nourishment and it will make the magic happen. I hope you've enjoyed this. There's more information below this video. There's a link to my food charts that have got a much deeper explanation below this video. Go and check that out, and I will see you in our next lesson.